Hi, if you've been on the internet lately, you know friend slop games are all the rage. Mecha Chameleon, Repo, Among Us, these games are hot right now. What if I told you the ultimate friend slop experience has been hiding under your nose all along? I'm talking super massive games. These are like bad horror movies that you get to interact with in order to try to keep all of the characters alive, and they are so fun. My buddy and I have a tradition of playing every single one of these when they come out, and they never fail to be a good time. It is so fun to verbally threaten my friend's safety if he kills one of our characters, only for me to then fuck up the easiest QTE sequence of all time and get a character stuck in a blender. Now, to be clear, these aren't what I would call the good games. The decisions make no sense sometimes, and the dialogue can be downright awful, but that's kind of the point. Turn your brain off, have a couple laughs, and enjoy yourself. However, the most recent one came out, Directive 8020, and it's bad. I played it, and now I want to make fun of it with you all. I do want to dig into the details of where I think it went wrong, but we're gonna start by just going through the game together and having a couple laughs. Let's begin. The game starts and we got 10 astronauts on a spaceship, but all of them are asleep right now except for 2, so we're just gonna introduce them as they wake up. For now, we got Carter and Sims. These two are... They don't have a lot going on, I'm gonna be honest with you. We learned the spaceship they're on is called the Cassiopeia, and they're on their way to colonize a brand new planet. When all of a sudden, boom! Explosion! Carter falls down and messes up his bonsai tree. What's going on? Turns out, big meteor has ripped through the ship and they are in trouble. So, Carter and Sims immediately go, we gotta talk to Grok about this. They go to talk to Grok, and this visibly evil AI just goes, nah, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do. So, they have to go outside to manually repair the hole themselves. Instead of like ropes or anything like that, they just use these magnet boots in order to walk on the outside of the ship without floating away, which surely is not a bad idea. Yeah, it's a very bad idea, actually. Sims triggers like a landmine, I guess, on the outside of the ship and just starts flying away. Luckily, Sims has this really shitty jetpack that they can use for all of 10 seconds before it expires, giving them just enough time to hurtle back towards Carter, and you get 1 QTE to save their life. You miss this button mash, which is, by the way, the first button mash of the game, and Sims is dead. That's it, GG. Already you're asking, well, that seems stupid. Why don't they just use ropes or have a jetpack that lasts longer than 10 seconds? Oh, my friend, there have been many scholars that have asked that question before you, and many will ask it after you. I don't know. These astronauts are very stupid. They find the mysterious meteor crash site and look down to see a very clearly fleshy material on the pipes. I'm just gonna go ahead and assume these two are like Make-A-Wish astronauts or something, because they go, yep, that clearly fleshy material is probably coolant. No need to think about this or the fact that a meteor somehow ripped through 7 layers of the ship, even though the ship has been built specifically to prevent that. Let's go play chess. We're professional astronauts. We belong here. So they do that for a while, but then scary stuff starts happening. Carter finds Sims just standing as ominously as possible in a corner, and then Sims turns around and attacks him. He skedaddles out of there, but then Sims is teleporting all over the place, jumping over giant walls in order to get to him, so immediately something is very wrong with Sims. So that means we learned the bagul of this game is Among Us Imposters. Among Us was actually the first game to invent imposters on a spaceship. You do a sneaking sequence as Carter to slip past Sims undetected and eventually slink to your room. Doesn't actually matter whether you're successful or not, Carter gets super murdered by Sims in his room regardless. Then we cut to present day. Present day? Yay! I watched a few people play this game just to get some other perspectives, and every single one of them made that joke. I'm not kidding. The rest of the crew are automatically awoken as they enter orbit, and they are very confused because the only 2 people who were supposed to be awake are nowhere to be found. Here we get introduced to 4 characters. We got Young, who's like the normal put-together protagonist type. Isley, the only competent member of this ship who actually has kind of a brain. Mitchell, whose unique character trait is that he has emotions and is actually fairly expressive. And Stafford, who's like the leader of the group. They chat and we get to know everyone a little bit until Mitchell completely ruins the vibes by saying some unhinged shit.
It'd be kind of fun. Put you into an airtight bag, stick you out into negative 270 degrees, shake you around a little until you shatter into a million pieces.
Hey! Wow.
Boom.
For now, let's just both stay alive.
My favorite part about this is that Young reacts completely nonchalantly. Either she's equally unhinged and genuinely takes this as a joke, or he says this stuff so often she's just past it by now. Meanwhile, the only competent person on this ship, Isley, is checking the camera logs to see if she can figure anything out. She sees a recording of Sims staring at the cryopods with them asleep in it for 4 hours straight without moving, and she's like, yep, this chick is insane. We gotta do something. The leader, Stafford, comes behind her and is like, hey, what you doing there? And Isley's like, dude, you gotta check this out. Sims is insane. Stafford's like, what? No, you're crazy. The camera's just broken. And Sims is asexual, so you're a bigot. Good luck explaining that one to HR. However, that's not enough to convince Isley. She has a plan. An interesting thing about this game is that at any moment during gameplay, you can choose to stop and just start texting someone, which is hilarious. You could be getting chased down by a freak alien and be like, wait, hold on, give me a sec. I gotta check MSN Messenger on my Samsung Galaxy Tab 3. I wonder what Cernan is up to. If you message Sims as Isley, you can trick them. You can ask if Sims has done the antenna update yet. Sims will say yes, but the thing is, it was a trick. There is no antenna update. You've clearly caught Sims lying, and you can use this to prove it to Stafford. Just kidding, this doesn't matter at all. Isley forgets about it and never tells Stafford, or anyone else for that matter. To be fair, she probably forgot because Sims does literally try to kill her right after, so I can forgive this one. Sims opens the airlock in the section that Isley's in, causing everything to start flying out of the ship. Somehow she doesn't die instantly though, and is able to escape through a vent. While in the vent, Isley finds Carter, and this dude has been turned into a pretzel. So, combined with Sims literally trying to kill Isley, followed by finding Carter Wetzelfied, everyone is like, okay, I think Sims might be evil. We gotta handle this. Mitchell is all like, it is messed up that Sims tried to kill you. However, I will continue respecting their pronoun preferences.
Stafford spoke to them.
Stafford, he's pissed. He's like, how could I have gotten heard so wrong? Evil Sims causes more damage to the ship, and the crew is forced to land violently. During this scene, there is a very funny interaction. You can clearly tell in a lot of moments of this game, there's just not enough recorded dialogue to accurately account for your previous decisions. Like, there'll be 3 different choices that are slightly different you could make, but they all lead back to the same dialogue, and sometimes that just doesn't make any sense. Earlier in the game, you were given a choice. Either turn off the landing computer or turn off the fire control. You had to choose one. If you choose to turn off the backup landing, Isley doesn't change her dialogue. She was there. She knows it's completely impossible to change this landing backup. It's not like a different character did it, so she's unaware. While the ship is going down, Isley just doesn't decide to mention the fact that she knows the landing computer is off. If you do try to turn on the computer while it's already been shut off, Stafford will just die instantly here. In my run, I just had Stafford buckle his seatbelt, so he's still alive. But there are plenty of goofy interactions like that. The ship crashing triggers the rest of the crew to get woken up, so here we get introduced to the final 4 characters of our cast. We got Anders, who is like the science person, kind of. Cooper, who is a doctor who was in the military and is ripped as hell. Williams, who we'll get to in a second, and Cernan. Cernan is the only character I even kind of like in this game because his vibe is just odd. He's supposed to be like the stoic character, but in practice, he goes from wise and collected to just wildly misreading the vibes and spewing quotes when it is completely inappropriate. And honestly, that's just kind of hilarious. I also sort of liked Mitchell because he's the only character that is like kind of expressive, but the vibes are still off from the whole I'll break you into a trillion pieces and leave you floating in space comment, so I don't know how I feel about him. I don't know if it's the actors or the writing, but every character in this game just feels like a Focus M type character. The dialogue in these games is always cheesy and kind of goofy, but I mean, these don't even feel like people half the time.
Hey, I'm delightful. Once you break through the quirks, which takes time and patience, yeah, I guess you can be.
I can feel that sunny disposition running out pretty soon, though. Then you'll be in trouble.
Who talks like this? Anyways, the final character, Williams, is finally awake and he just found out Sims killed Carter, and this dude is pissed.
Are you fucking kidding me?
He's the billionaire CEO who paid for this whole ship. I don't know why he's on the crew, but he is. To be fair, I'd be kind of pissed off too if I found out that during my 4-year-long hypersleep, of the 2 people who were awake, one of them killed the other. Eventually, Coopers and Ander are able to calm him down, and they go to explore the ship to kind of figure out what's going on and see if they can find anybody. On their search, they find it. The goo room. Let's go touch it! Man, what the fuck is wrong with you? Williams really wants to go touch the goo, but everyone else is like, no, that is a terrible idea. Except for Cernan. Cernan wants to go play in the goo room too. That seems like an insanely stupid idea. You are on a spaceship, surely you have something like a hazmat suit or equivalent that you can at least put on before getting a sample. But Williams has more money than me, so they listen to him instead of me. Cooper goes in to get a sample, and then they regroup with the rest of the cast. At the emergency meeting, everyone agrees we gotta shoot Sims. Mitchell, he's been talking to Stafford lately. He's like, she's out there whacking people. We gotta do something. Only useful person on the ship, Isley, has got a plan. Apparently, it's possible for them to seal off all of the exits to the area of the ship Sims is in, completely trapping them inside. The only thing is, they'll need one person to go in and tail/detain Sims for some reason. Why? If Sims is trapped, they're not a problem. If you're worried about Sims attacking you while you're in the sealing process, wouldn't you just go as a group? That way you could fight them off if you get attacked? Yes, they could do that, but that would make too much sense. They don't do that, and they use the bad plan instead. Young decides to be the hero and goes crawling around in the vents in order to try to tail Sims. And she does find them.
Sims. She's dead.
Okay, time out. We need to clarify Sims' pronouns. I know this literally does not matter at all. This is such a tiny detail, but you are watching a video of a guy with a mic in front of a green screen. You know what you signed up for. Why do they keep randomly changing Sims' pronouns from they to her? In the scene at the pretzel shop, everyone except Stafford refers to Sims as they. It's such a weird thing to be inconsistent on. I really don't understand it. Oh, you know what it is? I'm realizing as I'm recording this, I bet you in that particular scene, they just use the word they because they're doing the thing where they don't record enough dialogue. So maybe that's like the dialogue for if Sims gets killed in space or something like that. That's gotta be it. That's the only thing that makes any sense. So we have our answer. That's good. Anyways, while Young is crawling through the vents, evil Sims crawls by. Without attacking for some reason, she just sprints fully past, like goes on top of you and then just goes past you. That doesn't make any sense. Every single other time we see this monster in the game, it tries to kill the player immediately. So it's very lame that they completely abandoned the MO of the monster for a cheap jump scare. When Young exits the vents, literally the exact same creature then decides, oh, it's time to attack, and tries to kill her and Cooper. During this scuffle, we also learned that the goop room, yeah, it's different now. It's now the goop section of the ship. They see this and they're like, that is not good. This is gonna be a goo ship in a matter of days. So Anders and Cooper take the sample of goo they got back to the lab in order to analyze it. Meanwhile, Williams is playing basketball like a 7-year-old waiting for his mom to come home from work. He stumbles his way into the lab and he is very interested in the goo. You all right there, bud? Anders is like, this dude either has a special interest or he is evil. Cooper, you're a doctor. Let's roofie him. Since I get to decide, Cooper agrees immediately. Before they do that though, they run some more tests on the goo and they figure some interesting things out. First, the goo is connected. If one goo gets electrocuted, all of the goo gets electrocuted. They also find that the goo does not like cold. They poured liquid oxygen on it, which causes it to shrink. Then bow, it does not like that. It turns into a tentacle and attacks. The tentacle blows up Mitchell and releases a ton of liquid oxygen in the room Anders is in. So now Mitchell is burning to death while Anders freezes. Williams is also there in the fire room, just mogging? I don't know what he's doing. The player is then given a choice to save either Anders or Mitchell. I figured I left the fire control on earlier. If that's gonna help me anytime, it better be now. So I saved Anders. That actually worked, and the fire control started to turn on. The thing is, Williams was just standing there aura farming before this. Everyone's like, get out of there, Williams! Fire kills people! He doesn't care. He just keeps standing there, aura farming. Presumably the Huz is watching, so he just falls over and dies from fire. Everyone's like, fuck, the real Williams just stood in fire for no reason and burned to death. I can understand why Anders and Cooper might be like, oh, we might have just killed him with those drugs. But whether or not you choose to do that, everyone still thinks this was totally the real Williams. After that situation gets revolved, the weirdest thing happens. Williams is in the lounge and he's like, sitting there? Alive? Everyone figures out the truth immediately. The real Williams, he died in the fire. This Williams, he's evil. We gotta put him in the scanner. And maybe we just kill him. So they take him prisoner and make him do scans to prove he's a real person. Right as they're about to run the tests, alarms start blaring, and they see on the cameras a bunch of clones destroying everything on the ship. Williams is panicking. Stafford is pointing a gun at him. Okay, maybe he is the monster. That is not human strength. Stafford then gets the choice whether or not to shoot Williams, and I figured, okay, Williams, he's a billionaire CEO. Probably just the peptides doing that. I'll spare him. However, that might have been a mistake. I don't know. The scan does come back clean, which is good. But quick aside, does that even matter? I mean, this is an alien life form that is able to perfectly replicate someone. I feel like it's not a crazy far-fetched leap in logic to think that it might be able to pass as a human on the DNA level as well. Until you put a monster in the scanner to verify that that's not the case, this doesn't really tell us a whole lot. Of course, these trained astronauts do not even consider that for a second, and then all hell breaks loose. The clones start attacking people, there are 8,000 more sneaking sequences, which we will get to. Then everyone gets split up and has to individually sneak past their own little monster or whatever. This section is pretty much entirely just more of the same stealth gameplay, so Scooby and the gang get back together as long as everyone passes, which this time they did, and are now in a different part of the ship. Also, the imposters don't look like imposters anymore. They look like purple broccoli now. Conveniently, they have a second scanner on board, so Stafford points his gun at everyone and is like, you guys gotta go through the scanner. I am having a panic attack right now. Everyone goes through very slowly, and as the suspense builds, it finally happens. Right as Isley's about to go through the scanner, boom. The doors open and another Isley stumbles in. I think this moment right here is the moment the game just completely falls apart. You get the choice to either put them both through the scanner or just choose who to shoot yourself. Naturally, if you order them through the scanner, the trained astronaut Stafford and Isley, instead of being like, okay, we'll go through one at a time, Isley and clone Isley clamber over each other like rats to cheese while Young, for some reason, gets closer to them. Stafford does nothing to stop this despite the gun in his hand. Then clone Isley turns around and stabs real Isley with a fake mutant arm now. This was such a preventable death. What are we doing here? Honestly, if you choose to just shoot one yourself, it's not that much better. When you do that, they both try to convince you they're real. Is it the one telling me her life story, first love, and how many pubes she has? Or is it the one that keeps fucking jumping at me every time I look away a little bit? I chose to put them in the scanner, so Isley is dead. The clone then turns into a giant meatball. Stafford shoots it a couple times and they all run away. They regroup and all hope seems lost. Then, Young sees it, a drone in the sand. Apparently, there were outposts remotely planted on the planet in order to do recon. This drone is from one of those stations, meaning it must be nearby. If the group can somehow get to that station, they can send a message to planet Earth. Most of the crew suit up and descend to the planet, only to realize it's also covered in goo. Also, how does anyone think this planet is habitable? I don't see any plants. It is completely covered in dust storms the entire time, and oh, there's falling rock that has conveniently separated Anders from the group. This part was very confusing to me at first, because a rock falls between the group, and instead of Anders like climbing over, or maybe they can call to each other on the other side, she just teleported away. I don't know where she went, but she's gone now. Despite that gaping plot hole, I actually like this sequence. I think it's pretty fun. Not only is it the only sequence in the game that looks visually different than the ship, but there's a cute little thing where if you check your phone, you can see that you have a message from a new number claiming to be Anders, which I thought was really funny. Anders tells you where to go, and I'm a fucking moron, so I went to the wrong one by accident. I walked into the cave and saw Anders grudging in the corner, and I was like, okay, no, this is wrong. I must have the wrong address. I'll be going now. But then the game's like, no, you chose what you chose. You gotta live with it now, Buster. So I had to go and hug the definitely fake Anders. Cernan does not bring up the fake number, the texts with Anders, or the suspicions that she might be fake to anyone else for the rest of the game. By sheer luck, the group does manage to find the recon station, and Young sends a message, but she looks through the logs on the recon station and sees that other messages have been sent before this one. She watches the recording and sees herself sending a message before this. They're just a group of clones, and to hammer it home, Young finds the corpse of a previous version of herself lying in the sand nearby. The storm clears and they can see it, a graveyard of previous Cassiopeias throughout the desert. I gotta say, this reveal does kinda create a little bit of a cool what the fuck moment. However, it has a very, very fast acting negative repercussion.
That's not what I was expecting.
I was not expecting that. That is a crazy twist. But now nothing matters.
This was my reaction too. I feel like if they're all clones, there's now definitely no good outcome. I mean, this was already the bleakest scenario from any of these games by far. Seriously, how the hell are they supposed to survive this? But even if they do survive this, they're not gonna be allowed to live. They're clones. And if they're clones, I don't care. We learned from a message from the original Young that the reason they're all clones is that they've been sending the same group at this planet over and over in order to learn about the goo monster. Earth is dying, Mars is ruined, and this is their only hope. What? If this is your only hope, why are you spending billions of dollars to send clones with no information to crash into the planet and die over and over? What are you learning from this? Find people who don't care about being clones. We know they exist. Williams has known he's a clone the whole time. He just doesn't care. If for some reason you can't find that, Earth is dying and so is Mars. People are desperate. You can almost certainly find people who are willing to sacrifice themselves to try to help humanity. If for some reason none of those are options, at least prime these guys with something to fight. Remember that gun Stafford has? That is the only firearm on the entire ship. Give him a flamethrower or something and be like, you're totally gonna have to use this on a monster for real. I'm kidding, I'm playing with you. There's definitely not a monster out there. Unless? Also, sending a crew with no information dramatically increases the chance of them getting hijacked and taking the goo back to Earth. In previous games where the characters are like teens at camp or just normal people, yeah, it's okay for them to be kinda dumb, but these are trained astronauts. I should not be able to concoct a better plan in 10 minutes than the one they came up with. The writers remembered the AI that they introduced earlier and did nothing with, so Grauk is back and is like, yeah, I can't help, but I can help you kill yourself. Can you help with anything else? No. But apparently there's like a little shuttle for emergencies on the ship that everyone just now remembered, so their goal is now to get to that ship. Also, everyone dies here. There is just sequence after sequence of sneak past the monster, get to the door, or when they're feeling crazy, get the power cell, then get to the door. Now do it again, connect the wires, go to the door. If you get caught, you get 1 QTE. Miss it, character gets their head crushed. To add insult to injury, all the death animations are extremely similar. Character gets grabbed, they get crushed. The end. Once you get through that, there's one final animation where every character gets a couple chances to die if you miss a QTE, while giant evil tentacle meatball attacks all of them. Then whoever survives those QTEs gets to escape in the shuttle. They got on the shuttle, and in my run, it was just Williams and Cooper. We never even learn if they survive. Presumably, if they get back to Earth, they just get killed on the spot. We get a cutscene showing us the real Young getting arrested for the message she sent to the clones, and that's pretty much it. Game's over. If we bring back the alien, by the way, we never learn what happens to it. Just up in the air. So that's the end of the game. I think it's clear there were a few missteps, but it's time to talk about There is a lot wrong with this game, including physically. This is a fairly minor point, but we'll start small and work our way up. This is the only Supermassive game that I've seen to have major glitches at launch. It's definitely possible other ones had it, but I got to experience them firsthand this time around. Tragically, I wasn't recording it, but in my original playthrough, Anders just had no legs in every cutscene, and whenever I would open my Samsung Galaxy Tab 3, characters would T-pose every single time. This was by no means a Cyberpunk level launch, but I thought it was at least notable. There's also a variety of minor plot holes that go completely unaddressed, which is pretty standard for these games, but this one takes itself so much more seriously that they're way harder to ignore. There's too many to really bring them all up here, so we're gonna do some rapid fire. Sims records herself committing crimes the entire time she is awake. If she's a clone and does this every cycle, why hasn't she been replaced yet? She has proven that she has the potential to ruin an entire cycle by figuring out the truth before it even begins. If the goo becomes a monster shortly after spreading, why isn't the planet covered in them? There is not a single goo monster on the planet. Also, how does the goo monster not know how to speak or what fire is? There have been 13 cycles before this. It has had plenty of time to learn how to replicate all of these things. It's not like this is a new goo, it communicates telepathically. It should know all this already. Apparently, we reached Mars and then destroyed it within 30 years. How the fuck did we manage that? Speaking of, how does this mission even help humanity at all? Like I said, this planet is clearly not habitable, so the only valuable thing here is the entity. But we already have clone technology. Is this thing even gonna be that helpful? We need a planet, not more food. There are these little info cards hung up on the walls of the ship, and only after the grand reveal do they start having information about the clones. These are like posters that have been here the whole time. How does everyone not already know the truth? Those are a few, but there are plenty more. However, both of these issues are completely nothing in comparison to these next two. I don't expect perfect programming or a super tight narrative from these games, games. Those previous two are genuinely completely forgivable in my eyes. I don't really care. But the first major issue is the gameplay. What happened? In interviews, people who worked on the game said they wanted it to feel more video game-like. A pretty big critique of a lot of the previous entries of these games is that they feel more like watching a movie than playing a video game. I mean, yeah, that's correct. I kind of thought that was the point. I thought that was like the niche you carved out for yourselves, but I get it. Maybe you want to appeal to a broader audience. Just playing a movie is not for everyone. That's completely fair. But if you're gonna make it more video game-like, you gotta put actual gameplay in there. The only gameplay is that they put a monster in your face and say, sneak past it, go open the door. I cannot emphasize enough how many sections of this there were. I didn't even hate them. The first few times they came up, I was genuinely tense while trying to sneak past the bad guy. If these were interspersed among other challenges in the game, I think that would have been a perfect addition. But they're not interspersed. They're the only thing. So then every time there's a big chase and everyone's like, oh, I gotta get away from the monster. No, time to sneak. Quietly, slowly. It kills the pacing. Plus, the AI is fucking brain dead. When you're crouching, you're borderline invisible, and when you're standing, it will see you from a mile away. They have very obviously pre-programmed routes with literally no variations at all. They will walk in a square, and then you'll get to the next objective, and their route will immediately change. A lot of the times, they seemingly just teleport to their new route rather than actually walking there visibly. There is nothing to do besides wait in cover for them to move and then go to the next one. There's like these little distraction things there for flavor, but I don't think you actually need to use them a single time in the entire game. They completely gutted every single mechanic from previous games in favor of this. There are way less QTEs. There's no more like choose where to hide or breathing mini game. There's no puzzles. There's none of that here. They also got rid of the premonitions from every other game where you can find something and it'll like show you a cutscene of getting killed in a crazy way. Maybe they avoided that this time because they didn't want to like do spoilers for clones, but I think that would have made it way more interesting. If you see a cutscene of a character killing another character, you're like, what the hell? I'm gonna be suspicious of that person the rest of the game. But they might not always be a clone, so it would be an interesting addition to the mind games. The one and only attempt at gameplay they have is the puzzle where you make the sedative for Williams. This puzzle is dead simple, but it's cute. I liked it. The lab looks visually a bit different than the rest of the ship, which was a rare occurrence, and it was a nice break from the tension. Put some more of these in the game. Maybe make it so you have to solve something like this within a time limit or a character dies. That way the puzzle's still not that hard and it's accessible to a wide player base, but the time pressure makes it more challenging. I cannot overstate how much this game relies on these stealth sections. If they wanted to go all in on stealth gameplay, that's fine. But do you know what a game does when it goes all in on a type of gameplay? It evolves that gameplay over the course of the game. Mario games are all platforming, and yet the first level looks very different than the final level, and the final level will have a ton of new mechanics. There is one new mechanic from the beginning of the game to the end, and it's just that there's glass on the floor that'll make noise and alert the monster if you step on it. That's it. There's never multiple enemies, multiple routes, maybe items that you can use. Absolutely nothing. I have been very harsh on the gameplay so far, but even that would have been forgivable if it weren't for the biggest problem in the game, the monster. I'm sorry, the monster is terrible in concept and execution. Let me clarify. I have absolutely no problem with them trying to do their own take on Skinwalker in space. I really like Skinwalker stories. I am totally happy to see a new take on that concept. It would be extremely hypocritical of me to say that you can't take an already existing concept and try to put your own spin on it. I am a guy with a mic in front of a green screen. Not exactly groundbreaking stuff I've got going on here. But their spin is in the least fun direction possible. They did not make a Skinwalker that tries to utilize deception. Not a single time in this game does the monster ever do a good job of blending in or even seem to make an effort to. I'm gonna be so real with you. If at any point during the game there's a Skinwalker on screen with a single line of dialogue and you don't immediately notice, you're a lost cause. I totally understand if you were suspicious of an innocent person and thought they could be a monster blending in, but as you play the game, you slowly realize the monster never tries. Every time a clone is on screen, they either start tweaking out like crazy or just outright attack unprompted. The one exception is when Anders gets replaced, and I think they just didn't make new dialogue for that. Regardless, you still know she's a clone. Even if you weren't sure from the whole grudging situation, her real number is gone, and now it's the fake number on your phone. So you have to be willfully ignorant to not realize she's been replaced. Also, the monster has no reason to blend in anyways. We've already seen the goo is basically indestructible, and it replicates so fast it took over the ship within a couple days. Then it immediately started spawning dozens of giant meatball monsters to pulverize the entire cast. The game tries to tell you, oh, it uses the clones to get in close and learn about you, and maybe it'll slow you down from being able to figure out how to beat it. But no, that's just not the case. The clones never once stall the main cast. The only time they ever get stalled is when the tentacle monster stops their experiments. If anything, the clones just bring attention to themselves every chance they get. There is no situation where a clone frames somebody. No situation where you're alone with a clone and it turns on you and you have to fight to survive. No trickery at all. And you know what? That's probably the most realistic part of this game because it has no fucking reason to. Why trick when you can dodge bullets and turn into a mutant meatball that just kills people in one hit? I checked. There is not one single kill in this game where a character dies to a clone on screen. Not one. I guess you can maybe count the Isley kill from earlier, but it turns into giant mutant arm anyways, so I think that hardly counts. There are deaths where someone will be alone with a clone and will obviously know it's a clone, and then we just never see them again, but it's still not on screen. It's also never like a surprise or a trick or anything like that. Just monster. There are plenty of deaths where the meatball kills someone. Why not just do away with the clone concept entirely and just make meatballs the bad guy? That would have genuinely been better. Maybe they were trying to capitalize on the hype of the Among Us TV show. That's gotta be what it was. Do they not know the whole appeal of skinwalkers is the deception part? I really wish they leaned further into it. I really like skinwalker type stories. They're genuinely one of my favorites. So I was so sad that I couldn't find anything to like about this monster. I think my best guess as to why they did that is to make it so it's like, oh, it's clones versus clones. That's crazy. But it just falls extremely flat on its face, which is sad because I really love these games. Unfortunately, this is the only one of these games I can't say I had a great time with. I hope they'll do better though. So thank you for watching. Bye.